Who do you see? I see hope. I see change. I see resolution. I see wholeness. I see destiny. I see joy. I see leaders. I see builders. I see discipline. I see kings.
I'm not a slave to your thoughts. I'm not a slave to your opinion.
My name is Kerry, mentor.
They always put me in category.
Originally, I'm from Baltimore.
They don't know just who I am.
I am definitely a creative at heart.
And you're back and call. I'll give you the world, no matter what it costs. I'm in love with you. I'm in love.
I was born December the 5th, Sagittarius represent. So I grew up in a musical family. Some of you may know my father played the drums and he plays the bass, and my grandmother played organ keys and piano, and I had a grandfather on my mom's side who played the guitar, and I have a host of aunts and uncles who are all musicians and singers, and my cousins are all musicians and singers. And so growing up, my surroundings was always musical.
Under your eyes, and sometimes not a friend in sight.
I remember before this whole barbershop happened, before I even got into a barbershop, I was definitely cutting in the basement of my parents' house. And I had a few friends that came over, my little brother, my little cousins, you know, a few uncles, got a few shape-ups, a few haircuts. And I was charging like $5, like $10, $2 for a shape-up. And it was very humble beginnings because, again, like I kind of knew what I was doing, but not really. Like I was just starting out. So, you know, like I would say my whole process, how I started, was just having fun, just cutting people and shaping them up and just enjoying that, you know, like starting in my parents' basement, and then I got to a barbershop and I was cutting there, and then I moved to another barbershop and I was cutting there, you know, and then, you know, after so many years, here we are. I don't really call them failures. I call them lessons to be learned. Failure, I believe, is only when you give up. If you decide that you want something so strongly and you give up and you never touch it again, never ever touch it again, and it burns in your heart and you never touch it again, I believe that's a failure. But if you continue to try and continue to keep going, it's lessons that are learned that will help perfect your skill. The first time that I had a learnable lesson, I guess you would want to call it, was when I was in barber school, and my teacher already knew that I was kind of pretty good at cutting more ethnic hair. He decided to give me my first straight-haired client, and I had never in my life cut anyone with straight hair. Now, I have wavy curly hair, my family has curly hair, but straight hair is a different texture, especially when it's long. So I was about maybe like 17 in barber school, and I wore this haircut out, bro. Like, nobody ever taught me. I was just winging it, on a wing and a prayer. And at the time, the sniper was out. So we had like a sniper's list at barber school. And the sniper's list was, if you really mess someone's hair up really, really bad, you was on the top of the list as the top sniper in barber school. So I had never been on this list, everybody knew that, I wasn't gonna be on the list until he gave me that straight haired client. I believe they rushed to put me as #1 on this list, bro. And I was on there for about 3 months. Nobody could outdo me. I had tore this man's hair up so bad that he ended up crying. The thing about it was, though, he only cried because he was getting married the next day. He came to a barber school with inexperienced barbers, getting a haircut for his wedding day. Some would call that a bit foolish, but it's like a 50-50 chance. You might be good when you leave and you could look a hot mess. And so he ended up getting like a really, really close haircut. And it was awful. And then ever since then, the other teacher began to kind of teach me how to cut straight hair. She was a cosmetology teacher. So she was like, I got you. I already saw what was going on. I got you. So she taught me, she helped me out, and I'm good now, so y'all can come on in. But early on, that was the time, that was a lesson learned. It was exposing your weakness, because you have to learn from that. Like, if you have a weakness and it is exposed, you know what it is. And then you practice and 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 you get better at it. And and then one day you're a beast, so. I always knew that I would own my own business. I don't think that it was ever a doubt in my mind that it would happen. I don't think that it was ever a want per se. It was something that I always knew was going to happen. God had showed me the plan, a portion, I should say, of the plan of life. And I knew that it was inevitable. I knew that one day I would own a shop, because I've always loved hair. So I knew that one day it was one of those things where it's like your father promised that he would give you something at a certain age and you are expecting it. It was more of an expectation, I would say, than something that I knew I just kind of wanted to happen. It was more of I expected it to happen. So I was at Ebony Barbers, which is, I don't know if you guys know, but his name is Norman Jones. He's the owner of that shop and just an amazing, amazing guy. He became like my big brother, honestly, in the industry. But I started working at his shop and back in '05. And man, that whole journey was really, really funny, because here I am, a kid from like Baltimore County, and I'm coming down to Prince George's County. We had moved, my family had moved, and I'm looking for a barber shop. I was into like this book called Solid Gold. If anybody knows from back in the day, it was a barbershop book full of cuts and like different styles, and it was called Solid Gold. And I really I would binge on these magazines and these books, just looking at all the different styles. And I wanted to be in the magazine. I wanted to be in, feature. As a young kid coming up, you want to be in the magazine. You want to do all those things. And so I found Ebony Barbers actually in the magazine. They did a shoot. And I said, that's the shop I'm going to. So I went, I got to the shop. It was a Wednesday, I never forget. And I was told to come back the next day to do like a model cut, to show them what I could do. I wasn't even really through the cut, but Norman was like, yeah, come on, you're starting, And I was just like, perfect, I'll be here tomorrow. And that's how it was, man. And that shop was such an experience. I created a family there. I was there for a very long time. And they all became like my family. They all became like my brothers, And these guys were much older than me. And I could just see like their passion and just kind of see, you know, just kind of who they were, and just kind of see maybe even some of the older school barbers who have been cutting for years before I even came on the scene. And then of course there's some people my age as well. But that whole experience was good, and I realized that the barbershop is definitely like community. It's community. Like, it really is where the community and culture thrives. Like, you come into the barbershop, you're going to hear about everything, you talk about everything, and you set the trends for the community. Like, they come in, you ask your barber, like, what do you think, what kind of haircut I should get? I have a date, or I have to go somewhere, I have an interview, I have like this or that and that. And it's like, how should I get my hair cut? And we literally set trends for the culture.
Yeah.
So you have to be trendy.
Yeah.
You have to be. You have to know what works for people and what doesn't. So that whole experience at that barbershop was so cool, because you had people who have been cutting since the 90s, you know, some people since the early 2000s, since, you know, whatever. And they were just, you know, just, it was a cool time. It taught me structure. It taught me appointment keeping. It taught me time management. It taught me money management. You know, it taught me a lot of things, to be consistent, you know, and always treat your clients with respect, you know, always make sure you honor your clients, because these are people that are actually paying your bills. You know, I know we do the work, and they pay us for, you know, getting their haircuts, but also they are your clients. And you want to make sure that they feel valued. You know, you want to give them your best every single time. Yeah. You know, so early on, I learned how to be diligent in giving my best. You know, I learned how to do all these things. And so that is just how it started. The Next Barbershop was definitely part of the process that God had already ordained, because while Ebony Barbers was definitely the barbershop where I was introduced to the barber industry and learning all of the foundation and the structural portion of the career and who I am and who I was, I was ready to leave and start my new journey, and I didn't know where I was going to go. And it's so funny, because back to the spirituality part, I had went to visit Las Vegas with one of my best friends for their birthday. It was a few of us that went. And one morning I woke up really early, and I was praying to God. And I said, God, what is my next step? I said, I'm ready for the new. And I had found a barbershop in LA, and I called, and I was getting ready to change my license over to the state of California. And I set the interview up, and I was going to go there after I left Las Vegas, and I was going to go to LA before I came back home to Maryland. And that morning I prayed. I said, God, direct me. What is my next step? I said, you have to direct me, because should I go to LA or should I stay in Maryland? But if I stay in Maryland, where am I going to go? Because I don't want to stay at Ebony Barbers, where I was. Even though I loved them, I had grew a family, I felt like it was definitely time to go. It's like that inner calling, that inner compass was letting you know, hey, time is up here. You've been here long enough. It's time to grow. You have to know when it's time to grow. You have to let it go. So I was in prayer, and a friend of mine called me. Many of you may know Wade Menendez. He's a great guy, an amazing pioneer for what he has been doing. And he called me, and he was like, bro, I'm opening a shop in Hyattsville. Would you like to be a part? And I said, let me give it some thought. And I bust out laughing, because I was like, bro, like, you have great timing, because you have no idea. And I told him, I said, bro, I just got out of prayer and literally just asked God for my next step. Like, what am I doing? And I promise, it wasn't even 5 minutes. He had called, and I was like, listen, bro, it's a no-brainer. I teased and said I'm giving it like a lot of thought, but I knew when he called, that was the next step. And I came on, I ended up being manager of the shop. And then in that, I learned how to more so deal with people. Of course, you respect everyone, but there are things that are set in place as a manager that you have to do. And I learned how to do it hands on, you know, hands on. It was right there. And it was like God was taking me through this schooling. I had the foundation. I had learned how to manage a lot of things, time, money, and all of those things. And now it was time to learn how to manage not only time and money, but to manage a shop, to manage people, to manage how things flow, you know. And then after that, the opportunity came to even purchase the shop from Wade. And good brother, he's always, let me tell you, like, it's good to be surrounded by people who are successful and people who also have a prayer life, because they be tuned in, they be tapped in. And the timing was perfect again. And I was just like, bro, you know, like, definitely, I'm ready, you know, to take it all off your hands. And it was just a blessing. So back to the morals, back to the values, it's good to have spirituality, because that inner compass will definitely guide you. It was like a flow, like it was a flow state. So ended up at the W Hair Loft, and it was a beautiful experience. I got to meet a lot of amazing new barbers, created a whole new family, and it's just been just a beautiful ride, honestly. Like, so I was here, we came here in 2014. It was the W Hair Loft, and we enjoyed that season. And then here in 2000, what is it, 22, now it became Monarch Studio. And now it's mine, 100% mine. And it's just like, wow, like the steps working at someone else's shop and then coming aboard to be manager. And then you have your own. It's like strategic steps. And you have to be grateful for the beginning. Like, you can't, I don't believe that you can become like a successful business owner without working ever at someone else's establishment, because you have to know what it means to work at someone else's establishment. You know, like, you have to know what they may feel like, people who work at your establishment, because you've been there. Like, you have to know what that feels like, you know. So that was my whole journey. Like, that was on a span of like 20 years, honestly, like professionally. It was the greatest. It's a great ride. It's a great flow. I would just a flow state.
Rise up and take your rightful place. There's more than where you are, more than what you see. Rise up and take your rightful place. Agree with God and be the king you are.
And how long have you been coming to Kerry?
Oh, man, over 15 years. Never missed a day. I've been late to my appointment, but I never missed a day, I'll tell you that.
And what's the best thing about Monarch?
Oh, the best thing about Monarch is the level of service and the quality of the product. You know, premium price, but premium product. It's the best on the East Coast.
What if I had decided that I was just not going to stay in Maryland any longer and go here to LA? You know, the funny thing about it is I had been to LA quite a bit, like working on a few BET award shows, and I did a few, you know, fashion shows and things like that. And I had been to LA doing a lot of that. And here recently, I've been back to LA. I was always taking a trip to LA to cut hair or to do maybe some music, like, you know, recording some music for a few of the EPs that I've released. But yeah, I thought about it, and I was like, you know, even if I had gone to LA, I do believe there would have been success. I do believe that it's not over. I believe that there were some things that first I had to do here, because we're talking about divine alignment. Like, we often want to jump to maybe the conclusion or the big manifested version of what we believe God has for us, what we believe our path will take. But you have to know, we talked about the journey earlier, the journey to it, enjoying the journey, because here I am, I was trying to maybe go to where I feel like ultimately I would be. But there was a lot of things to do here before I got there, you know, set the culture here, set the tone here, you know, and enjoy that process. I do believe that, not to say that LA is this great big goal, but it was just a culture for what LA stood for, you know, just the freedom of life and the artistic persuasion that's there. Like, you have theater, you have television, you have music, you have the arts. I mean, like, LA is definitely like a art school expanded. Like, it's like, one of my friends who lives in LA brought it to me this way. He was like, Kerry, he was like, LA is like going to an art school after you have been at a public school. While being at a public school, you may have like done music or done the arts, but it's different when you go to an art school. The whole entire school is artistic. Like, everywhere you go, it's centered around expression through the creative arts. And it was so real for me. And I know that I feel like LA definitely is home. I've been there quite a little bit of time. And I'm like, you know, what we going to do, God? When is it time? However, Maryland has been, the DMV has been beautiful to me. You know, they've treated me so well. And I'm not done here, you know. And of course, I've thought about some other areas, some other places. But I only say LA because at that time, that was where I felt like I wanted to go. But all is not lost. Connections are still there. And I honestly believe that the future is going to be bright for what I thought was going to happen back then. I feel like things are going to work out as they are supposed to, in the perfect timing, you know? So there are some barbers who can be closed-minded. I actually, I knew a guy who only cut even Stevens, like Caesars, or whatever you want to call it, like regular or just even all over haircuts. He would only want to do that. He would not fade. He wouldn't do any mohawks. He wouldn't do any temple tapers, none of that. It had to be even in all shape-ups. And I would laugh because while that may seem like an easy way to go, as trends come, you have to learn how to fade, you know, or you have to be able to do fade, or you have to do it. You have to do it. And so I would say, like, you cannot be cornered, or you can't be boxed in your mind, you know, because of course he didn't last long in the industry. He was cutting for maybe like a year or so, and maybe, you know, then he was done. You know, so I would just have to say, be open-minded. You have to definitely be open-minded and allow your creative juices to flow. So, it's a dance. You step a few steps forward, and then you take a few steps over here to the left, and you move to the right, and you learn to tango with people who are also in the industry. You know, like different people. We all are dancing together. You know, and I believe in the creative process, even in business, you have to not allow yourself, again, to be boxed into how it should go for you. You know, like, opportunities come. They come in all sorts of ways. And a lot of times, from experience, like, your next level or your next season or opportunities may come in a way that you did not expect. You know, when we have written out our plans for our lives and we, you know, believing that this is going to happen and that is going to happen, you have a way that you think, oh yeah, this is going to happen. I'm writing that out, so on and so forth. And then you get there and it happens totally different. And if you are stubborn, if you are like, you know, someone who just will not budge unless it's your way and your way alone, you will not get far, because you have to kind of be a little bit, you have to be a little bit spontaneous, but also be ready, you know, like, always be prepared for whatever you want, you know, as best as you can. Like, be prepared, like, mentally, like be prepared, financially be prepared, you know, because you never know when that blessing is going to come, when your next time or your next era is going to come, you know. But it comes, of course, when you are ready and prepared for it. That's how the law of attraction even works, you know, like, or how everything comes to you. It'll come to you when you are totally prepared for it. However, I would just say, be ready for the spontaneity, because it's going to be like a quick shift. And so, yeah, I would just be creative and allowing yourself in business to allow spontaneity of how you're going to get what you feel like you should have. So, and then you got to get creative in, like, as far as the barber is concerned, like, or the industry of makeup or hair or styling, or this whole industry, the whole beauty industry. You have to just allow the environment, you know, like everybody in here. I mean, if you draw, for instance, I used to draw as a kid. If you draw, you probably might know how to fade or cut, because making sharp lines and angles and then sculpting the hair and then learning how to fade, you know, it's like, these are all literally like art projects that we put on people. Make sure you value and treat your clients with respect. And you will be tried, because clients love to test that. They love to try you, bruh. But, you know, there's a way, a respectful way to let them know, hey, like, you know, relax, because I know you may be a little bit, you know, worked up, but we're going to try our best to, you know, solve the problem and the issue. But everybody won't be happy. You know, everybody won't be. Some folks just want to, you know, just pick a fight. So, you know, you let them do that by themselves, but you also show them value and respect. I would also say, like, make sure that you present well. Make sure that you present yourself and your business well. You know, like, make sure it's clean. Make sure it smells good. Make sure you're clean. Make sure you smell good, and put a mint in your mouth as well, because, you know, talking to people in your best think, and you got clients, it's not good. But you know, make sure you present well. Make sure you smell good. Make sure the place is nice. Make sure you respect your clients, and make sure you have accounting. You have to make sure that you manage money well, and you have someone help you if you don't know how to do it. Because bills come around, they come around fast. Every month, that same bill is coming. And there may be some extra repairs you gotta do, and other things you have to do. You have to make sure that you do it well, because everything could go, it can go fast if you're not prepared financially. If you're not a good steward over money, like, you know, you waste your money trying to live the fast life, or trying to stunt, or you just are bad with money, you will not do good in business. You won't. It won't last. It won't last. And I don't care how much faith you have. If you're not good with money, if you're not good with managing wealth, you know, you're trying to build wealth, and you may not be making as much as you desire to make, but if you can't manage the little, then you won't be able to manage a lot, you know. So I would just say you have to have that administration down. You cannot be a king and be afraid of people. You cannot be afraid of people. You cannot be afraid to speak your piece. You cannot be afraid to offend a few folks, because your piece and what your word says has to go. It has to be what it is. So you have to have a backbone. And there's nothing like seeing a king who bows or who folds under pressure. You have to be able to work under pressure, because there's always going to be pressure. Everybody reports to the king. Everybody comes to the king to complain, to celebrate, to party, to, you know, just to be around, because it's royal. You have to present yourself as royalty. Kings cannot go everywhere. You can't be with everybody. You can't be everybody's friend. You can't eat everywhere. You can't go everywhere. You have to go to a place that has the capacity to hold who you are. You have to be a visionary. You have to have a goal in mind to take the people from one place to another. There has to be an evolution in your vision. You cannot be where you are when you first became a king or when you first realized you were royal. You cannot be in that same place 50 years or 20 years or 10 years later. What is the evolution of your era? Like, what are you doing? What are you presenting? How are you helping? You know, like, a part of being a king, like I said, having a backbone, you also have to stand up against maybe even other kings or other places that may have what you want. When you go in to ask someone, how much does it cost to have this a part of my establishment? I'll buy it from you. And you go through your debates and you go through your conversations and you settle. You have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to converse and to be able to just go back and forth without even getting upset. Don't lose your cool. And it's like saying an angry king. Like, you always angry, that means you have no control over yourself. Like, you have to have control. Every time something happens, you're upset and you're throwing things across the room and everybody's ducking and nobody wants to come around. That means you don't have control over your feelings or your emotions, so you're a hothead. You cannot be a hothead and be a king at the same time. To be royal, make sure you hold your head up high all the time. Like, literally, you have to believe who you are. You have to believe in who you are because you have to believe what you have to offer. You know, we can't have any kings with low self-esteem. You have to do the shadow work. Whatever the things that you're dealing with in life that you have not overcome, you have to overcome those, because also with being a king, you are a leader. And how can you lead some people where you have not gone? How can you lead people if you have not overcome your own demons? And you're telling people, oh, you should do this or you should do that. And they ask you, how? How can I overcome that? And you say, well, I don't know. I've never done that. Sit down. Let somebody who has some experience tell them. You know? So until you have experienced life and you've come out of the things of those old habits, those bad habits, and those things that will make you inferior, that you have not overcome, you cannot really be true. I mean, you can be a king through maybe inheritance, but the authority is not yours because you have no experience. You haven't learned how to be a person of authority, you know, because you couldn't even control your own emotions. How can you not have authority over your own emotions and think you're going to have authority over other people? It's not going to work. So, self-growth, self-evolution. This is why my story is so important, because I started out as a barber working at someone else's establishment, and then I laid the foundation for that. And then I was working at someone else's establishment as manager. And then I now have my own. You see, the process is very important. It's very important. I did the shadow work. I've done the praying. I've done the getting out of the habits. I've done all of those things. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm saying this is the process that you have to do. If you want to be royal, if you want to be a king, it's a process. You know, there's some kings, I'm sure we've all seen movies and we've heard the stories of kings going into battle to fight, and they've won the crown because they won the war. It's the same thing. You have to know how to get in the battle and win, because how else would you lead anybody to true victory if you have never won a battle? So it's important to do all of that in order to be royal, to be a king. I know you want the glitz and the glamour, and you want to, you know, be famous or be noticed or to have influence, but it comes with a price, and you have to do the work. You got to do it. Otherwise, well, your value is pretty empty. It holds no weight.